Hello, everybody, and welcome to our second ever YouTube Live event. And today we're joined by Nicola, and Nicola is one of our teachers in Shanghai. Nicola actually started teaching in Shanghai in 2016, in August, on our long-term program. She decided to renew her contract, so she's in our second year now. So we'll be talking to her in just a second, but before we do, I just wanted to give you a little bit of background, about our company and what this is all about. So my name is Arnold. I'm the director of Teach English in China, and I'm one of the co-founders of the company. So we're quite a small UK-based company, and what we do is basically help people who would like to teach English in China get started and hopefully have an amazing experience. It's something I used to do myself in a city called Wuhan, and I had a fantastic experience. For me, I never was really looking into going into teaching necessarily, but I was very interested in spending some time in China and kind of exploring it. And I got that in spades. It was a fantastic experience. So today what we do basically is organize various programs. So we've got long-term programs, the one that Nicola is doing. So you could go either teach in China for a year, get a paid job. We've got lots of choice. We've got state school options. We've got private school options, so you can work in a big city, Shanghai, Beijing. You could be in Inner Mongolia. You could be teaching a class of 5 to 10 people. You could be teaching massive classes like Nicola is doing. So there's all sorts of choices on our program that we can explore. So if you're interested in any of the programs, have a look in the link below in the description on our website. So besides the long-term programs, we also got shorter-term options. So if you're a current student and you're looking to do something for, let's say, the summer, you could go to a couple of weeks of teaching at a summer camp in China. You could also do a homestay program, for 1 to 3 months over the summer. So lots of opportunities, a fantastic experience, that China is. So in terms of today's chat, Nicola is a fantastic contributor to our community. She started as a Facebook blogger last year on our Facebook group with fourth weekly blogs about her experience. She's done lots of vlogs for our YouTube channel as well, and she's also the manager of our Instagram account. So all the pictures you see on Instagram, they're picked by Nicola. And she's recently won an award as the best teacher at her school. So the perfect person to talk to today. So we'll talk about all sorts of things, but we focus really on a couple of key points. And that's to do with, what makes a good teacher, dealing with homesickness in China, and also extracurricular activities that you could do, because Nicola is involved with volunteering as well in Shanghai. So with that said, I'd like to welcome Nicola. Nicola, how are you?
Hi, I'm good.
Yes, great to see you. So you, we met again, at our orientation day, of course, in London in July as well, but also a couple of weeks ago when you were back in the UK and helping out with some careers events. So in terms of yourself, can you tell me a little bit more about how you kind of got started with teaching English in China and sort of, how you first got interested in it?
Yeah, so always surprises people because I actually wasn't interested in moving to China before I applied. I just went to a careers fair at my university, and I thought, oh, well, I'll just look around and see what's there. And I'd not even thought about going to China on a holiday. And I just came over speaking to Arnold, just speaking to you, and I thought, oh, well, this is interesting. It sounds really good. And one thing I've always known is I've wanted to work with children and young people. So I thought, well, this fits, even though teaching is not what I've originally thought I wanted to go into. And I just applied from there. And then now, yeah, here I am, and I've re-signed, and I'm still here.
Yes, because so you did a psychology degree, didn't you, at Sunderland?
Yeah, I did psychology with counselling at Sunderland, yeah. Okay. So a little bit different.
Yeah, brilliant. So obviously, one of the features we'll talk about today is how you stayed in Shanghai after your initial start. So how did that come about?
So I wasn't actually going to stay. I think I was considering coming back to the UK. I'd actually applied for a few jobs, and I had been accepted on a program actually in Sri Lanka, doing a different job. And in the end, I just thought, I'm just really going to miss being here. I didn't feel ready to leave Shanghai, and I just really enjoy being here. Like I feel like I can't even put into words how much I enjoy being here, and I just thought I would miss it if I wasn't here, and I would regret it. So I signed my contract and stayed on.
Yeah, brilliant. So, and at the moment, as we talked about, I think you're looking to stay potentially even beyond this second year as well, right?
Yeah, definitely have. I can't say exactly when I think I'll want to leave, but for the moment, I think definitely at least 1 year, probably more than that here.
So
Yeah.
I think something a lot of people are always interested in who are considering teaching in China is, maybe not having lots of teaching experience, not speaking, any Mandarin, for example. So can you tell us a little bit about where you were on those kind of scores?
Yeah, so before I came, I didn't have any teaching experience. I'd volunteered in a primary school, but that had been it, just doing reading with the students. And I couldn't speak any Mandarin at all. Like I knew ni hao, like most people do, but I could not fluently speak it. I still can't fluently speak it, but I think because I had the summer camp in over the summer before coming here, doing my TEFL, I think that really helped me and like open my eyes to see what it would be like. And I just feel like it was kind of a really hands-on learning experience, and it was a good way. I feel like I don't know if I'd done teaching experience before. I don't know necessarily if it would have helped me. I don't know, but I feel it's something you can do without teaching experience and without being able to speak any Mandarin, because I feel it's a great way to actually learn Mandarin by being here, because you're so immersed in it. And even if you don't actively try and learn, you're going to pick up words and phrases just from the streets and in class and out and about.
Absolutely. So one of the things, obviously, that was really exciting for you is that you recently won this award for best teacher at your school. So congrats. And yeah, can you tell us a bit how that came about?
So I think it was just they basically I get viewed sometimes on my lessons, so I have coordinators who help me with everything. Basically, there is, if I have any issues with housing or any problems here, they're just on the end of the phone, and they would come view my lessons and give me feedback. And I'd say often I would get a really good, a high score. It's kind of like meets expectations, exceeds. So I would often get like the highest score, and I think it just got it up often. I would just listen to what their advice was initially, kind of speak to other teachers about what they do, and just really research games and ideas to keep lessons interesting, and just really kind of make the most and learn. Even though when I first came out, I still wasn't really sure if I would want to be a teacher long term, but I still thought I was going to put the most into this job while I was doing it. Even for the year, I really wanted to make the most of it and do the best job I could, and really learn from it and learn from the skills I would get. So yeah, I worked really hard, and the coordinators would come and view me, and yeah, then they picked me to get an award, which was really nice to have that reassurance, and that that I'm doing a good job.
Absolutely, that's brilliant. So we've prepared a few slides, and the first topic is actually about this topic. So sort of what makes a good teacher. So we'll go to the slides.
Yeah.
Okay, there we are. The slide's about what makes a good teacher. So, in your opinion, Nicola, you've put down a couple of key points. So, number one, there's adaptability.
Yeah. So I think adaptability is hugely important because often I've gone into a class, and so for every lesson I prepare a PowerPoint and maybe a few board games that I can do as well. And I'll have gone in and put my memory stick in the computer and it's just not working. And I thought, oh, I've got, half an hour to teach these vocabulary words and these sentence structures, and I don't know what to do now because my PowerPoint's there, and you just have to think on your feet and just do something because you can't just stand there and say nothing, and just be able to quickly think and adapt to situations. And it's happened to me before in terms of the abilities of the students as well, where I've gone and loaded the PowerPoint up and we've started the class and it's become very apparent very quickly that they're just not getting it. And even if I've done this lesson before with another class and they've been fine with it, just this particular class and these students just aren't getting it. And you can't just keep plowing on with it and hoping for the best because they're not understanding. So you've just got to be able to there and then think quickly, oh, how can I make this easier? How can I adapt this? How can I use my body language maybe, or a different activity to get the point across easier?
Okay, so it's interesting in terms of a different activity. So if that happens, what kind of activities have you turned to?
So I will do like a game I always do is like a splat the board. It's really easy. So I will write like the vocabulary words. I'll draw pictures, so they've got further illustration of what this is. And I'll just get two students to come to the front and I'll say one of the words and they just have to look on the board and see which is the correct word. Maybe they use the picture, maybe they use the word, whichever's easier for them. And then they just have to kind of touch the right word. And the first person to do it is the winner.
Okay.
So they always get
Chinese students. Sorry, Chinese students, they're quite competitive, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. And in my classes, I always split the classes into teams, so 3 or 4 teams. So if somebody from their team is up, even the students who aren't playing but are on their team get really into it because they want their team to win. So it's really good, yeah, for getting them engaged with the competition. And, you don't need a PowerPoint for that. And it's really simple, just writing on the board. And they can... you can make it less advanced by then not drawing the picture and just having the writing, or getting rid of the writing and just having the picture.
Yes, it sounds good. So the next point you mentioned there is patience as well.
Yeah, I think patience is definitely another thing that's key, because sometimes it will take a long time for a student to answer, or you'll ask a question and no students will put their hands up, and sometimes you just have to kind of stand and wait because they're actually just thinking about it in their head and then they'll put their hands up later. And I feel like sometimes it's easy to rush and like panic and be like, oh, quick, like somebody answer, pick on people. But I feel like you have to think in your head there, maybe translating the Chinese into English and then making the sentence make sense in English, because obviously it can't always directly translate, and that's going to take time, and maybe it's a bit awkward standing there in the quiet waiting, but it's kind of is necessary. And I think sometimes when the students are answering and they're struggling for words, I've been before like trying to help them, so prompting them with questions and stuff, but all they've actually needed is for me to just be patient and wait for them to think about the sentence. And then
yes, absolutely. And how do you assess the students' levels when you first start? Because you work with many different students, I guess. So how do you do that?
I think just basically I think it takes a little bit of time. I don't know if I can assess them like straight away, but I think just you can. Some of it's easier to assess the students that are more eager, the students that will pull their hand up straight away, the students that can answer straight away, and some of the students that are a bit quieter. I think just slowly working my way through the room and making sure I've picking on students a little bit and making them answer, and then seeing based on that what their abilities kind of are. But I don't know. It's a good question, but sometimes I feel like like I know I can look at students and I know what their ability is after a few classes, but I'm not always sure how. I can tell.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, in terms of this patience, I guess it's kind of a personal thing as well to, you know, to get to that level of patience. So, how have you developed over time since you started on that front?
I think it's just working on it. I think it's kind of like checking yourself in your head, and when a student's answering and they are struggling and they're thinking it over, just when you feel that urge to help them and prompt them, just taking a second in your head and think, no, like just give them a few more seconds, and then if it becomes apparent that no, they don't know what to say, then prompting them with a question. I think it's just being like mindful within yourself that just assess the situation before going in there with say.
Yes. So, in terms of other qualities, I think empathy is the next one on the list.
Yeah, which I think it links in really well with patience, because I think I learned to be more patient because I started Chinese classes. And in the Chinese classes, I can see kind of sometimes on my teacher's face how I must sometimes look in class. And I remember often in class we've gone through the vocabulary words and we've been doing the lesson about these vocabulary words. And in the end, we'll do a review, and they'll not remember one of the words. And I used to think, but we've just done this and we've been doing this for the lesson. How do you not know? And then now in my Chinese classes, sometimes I'm like, it's on the tip of my tongue, or I'm like, I know she's just said it, but I can't get it in my head. I just can't remember what it is. Because in reality, it's only half an hour and they've learned, 8 words and so many sentence structures, which are all new. So I can sometimes see on my teacher's face when she's kind of like, I've just said this, which is how I look. But I think, just having empathy for the students that, it is hard to learn a new language, and your class is difficult. There's no Chinese, everything's in English. So it must be really hard.
Absolutely. I think that's something. My Mandarin is not brilliant whatsoever, but it's definitely something when you try to learn Mandarin, you realize how different the languages are and how difficult it is for Chinese students. So that's definitely a key point. So creativity. So you make a lot of your own lesson plans, right? At your schools.
Yeah. So I have to make all my own lesson plans, my PowerPoints. If I want to use any resources in class, I have to make them myself as well. And I think often things can get quite boring for the students if you keep playing the same games and keep repeating things. But I think it's easy to be creative because, so for example, I have a game that I like to play with them that I call the list game. And it can be used across topics. So say you're teaching them about fruit. They're in their team, they have to think of as many fruit as they can in a set amount of time. And because it can be used across so many topics, it's really like a go-to game that I like to do. But it's very easy to be creative with that and kind of change it a little bit. So maybe the students don't realize they're playing the same game. So you could get them to write on the board instead of writing on a piece of paper. Get it so one person's writing, get it so everybody writes, and they have to pass the paper down their team. So everybody has to write one word. So I think being creative is really important, but I think it's really easy to just make small tweaks to games. And I don't think being creative means like going over the top and thinking of some crazy ideas and some crazy designs or anything over the top, but just being a bit creative with maybe the games and how you get them to behave in the lesson. Like I'll get them to say the vocabulary words really quietly and then shout them out really loud, and crouch down on the floor and jump up and shout them, like just small things to change up the lesson a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So the final point is the thick skin.
Yeah. So I think this is definitely important, because sometimes the students aren't nice to you, and because they're just, they're children. So, and my high school students sometimes, but they're just, sometimes I'll say that they've told me before, oh, you're a bad teacher because I won't put a point on for their team, or, you know, I don't like you, teacher, because I've just told them off. And it's easy to be like, oh, they've just called me a bad teacher. Like, am I a bad teacher, and feel bad about it? But, you know, you've just got to let it go. And they're just saying it because, you know, they're kids and they're annoyed you didn't give them a point. It doesn't really reflect necessarily on how you are as a teacher. I think, you know, everybody has bad days, and so do students. So yeah, just not to let it get to you, really, if they do say something along those lines, or kind of be a bit mean to you, basically.
And then there is sometimes the flip side also, isn't there? Because I saw on the Instagram, in the post she did recently, that you got some nice presents for International Women's Day from your students.
Yeah. They the school I was at on that day gave me a flower for International Women's Day, and my students are really sweet. They'll one of my classes recently, for their team names, they picked their team names as Super Miss B, number 1 Miss B, and which is really cute. So I think, yeah, that's for the negative comments you'll get in the class. You'll get lots of really nice comments, and the kids like running up to you and wanting to hug you, and really excited to see you. So it's easy to not let it get you down, because there is so much positivity off the students as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think something that's not really covered in the slides today, or maybe we won't talk about too much today, but an important point, I think, is that here, especially on our program as well, you'd be out there with lots of other people in the same boat, right? And I think you're all, I guess this is something you've talked about with the fellow teachers on the program.
Yeah, we can talk about that with each other. And last year I lived with 2 girls who came on the program. This year, 1 girl who came on the program. So, you know, I come home and I have someone to talk to about it straight away. And yeah, we have like a big group, WeChat group, we're all on together, and people will just write on there. So yeah, if you are feeling a bit down about something, you can just have that support system here with you, and they're feeling the same things, and people are saying the same things in class to them. So it's really good.
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of our next topic, so that's something we've talked about as well, the homesickness. How has that affected you over your time in China?
I think it's been, it's affected me in lots of different ways. I think sometimes it's affected me, you know, a little bit like I really miss this food, or something's reminded me of something. I thought, oh, I wish I was there right now. I wish I was with this person. And sometimes it'll affect me for a few days, and I'm just like, oh, I just really want to go home. I think it definitely affected me when I first came out, the first kind of semester of school. Towards the end of that, I was kind of really homesick and just kind of done with it, and was definitely not staying another year in China. And I just wanted to go, and I was getting easily annoyed by things, and just comparing things to home a lot. I wanted to be back in the UK. So I think it comes in like maybe like waves, but most of the time I'm not really that homesick anymore.
Okay. So you mentioned things annoying you, because this is something, you know, when I interview candidates, of course, it's something we talk about. And, you know, China, it's so different, so many cultural differences. So what sort of things annoyed you?
I think one thing annoyed me a lot is sometimes people can stare at you kind of because you're the foreigner. So, you know, you'll get on the metro or whatever, and you're the only foreigner in your carriage that you can see. And sometimes it would annoy me a bit, like, okay, you don't need to stare at me now. Like, you make you feel a little bit uncomfortable. Or I'll kind of sit down on a seat on the metro, and somebody will move, and I'm like, are you moving away from me because I'm the foreigner, or because, you know, you just don't want to sit here and you're getting off or whatever? And I think because I think it doesn't really bother me. I don't really think about it anymore. But because it was annoying me, I was like, stop looking at me. And it probably wasn't even that much. Someone would just glance over. But yeah, I feel like once you're in that mindset, you kind of, and I think people are just often in the street, I've noticed people kind of like push past you to get on the metro, and like barge past you and stuff. And just little things like that. But I also think a lot of it with me was that I'm not from like a busy city, and I went to university in Sunderland, so I'm not from a busy city. So I think a lot of things that annoyed me were kind of things that if I'd been somewhere that had so many people living there and was such a busy place, it maybe wouldn't have annoyed me as much.
Absolutely. No, that's right. I know what you mean though about sometimes standing out. That's something that I also think about as one thing that, I struggled with at times when I was teaching in China. And, with me, I was just sometimes I asked the reception of my school to order some takeaway or something for me just to, have a night in, because yes, you do have that quite a lot in China. So in terms of, ways of dealing with it, put down a couple. So immersing yourself is one of them.
Yeah, I definitely think it's important to immerse yourself and kind of explore where you're living and, try local food and try and go out to local places. But I think it also in terms of this is to not put too much pressure on yourself, because I feel like sometimes in the first semester and when I was feeling homesick, I kind of was putting a lot of pressure on myself to go out there and really immerse myself and go and eat local food all the time and do local things all the time. And I think if you put that pressure on yourself, then you're going to start to hate it if you don't want it. So to immerse yourself, but at the same time, if you want to go to Western restaurants, if you want to go have a McDonald's or Pizza Hut or whatever, then that's okay. You don't have to be immersing yourself constantly, and it's what you want to get out of it at the end of the day. I think that's the most important thing. How much you want to immerse yourself is up to you. Don't withdraw yourself completely, because it's exciting, you're in this new country, but also don't put pressure on yourself.
Yeah, totally. I had the same experience because I'm quite a big football fan, and when I was in Wuhan, I like going to a bar where they showed Premier League or European football games, and and drink sort of a pint, in a more sort of Western setting, and I felt a bit guilty about it for the reasons sort of you mentioned. But yeah, I think it's a good balance to strike, at times, certainly, because you're obviously living in China and you're very much immersed in it otherwise. So in terms of filling your spare time, how have you done that in your time in Shanghai?
So I do quite a lot with my spare time. So I joined the gym, which has exercise classes like yoga and stuff with it as well, which I really enjoy doing the extra exercise. And I also do volunteering as well in my spare time. So I volunteer for one charity, and I have a few roles with them. So I'll do that on the weekends. And I used to do it. I used to have some early finishes last year, so I used to do it after work too, on the weekdays. And so yeah, the volunteering.
Sorry, go ahead.
So the volunteering basically I do is for a charity that works with kids with heart problems. They is a hospital that they'll come have their surgeries at. So I'll go into the playroom and kind of play with the kids in the playroom. I do orientations for new volunteers in the playroom. And then I do some work liaising with schools as well that want to work with the charity.
So in terms of friends, can you tell us a little bit about kind of your social circle in Shanghai?
Yep. So my friends, apart from my friend Amy, who I live with, I met her at university and I came with her. Apart from her, the majority of my friends here are through teaching English in China, because we all came out and did the summer camp and the training together, and we just kind of stayed friends from there. And some of them as well don't just live in Shanghai, they live in other areas of China, and I've kept in touch with them. And now I have some friends from some of my schools, my coordinator, I'm good friends with her, and people I've met just from being here, from volunteering. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So in terms of homesickness, so the final bit, I think we've talked about this, but I guess sort of accepting the feeling and knowing that it's a normal thing is a key part of sort of dealing with it then.
Yeah, I think just accepting that, yeah, I feel homesick, I feel sad, and that's fine. That's just the way it is. I think people can feel sad, people can feel homesick, and just not putting too much pressure on yourself, worrying, oh, I don't know if I want to do this experience, because I might get too homesick. Well, you know, you don't know if that will happen, and if it does, then that's okay. Everybody feels homesick, and you know, no one's forcing you to be in China. If you know, if you feel that bad, you feel that bad, and everybody feels homesick. It's just something everyone will probably go through.
No, absolutely. So in terms of the extracurricular activities, then I think we talked a little bit about the volunteering. So that sounds amazing. So you've been doing it for quite some time, right? So how did it get started?
So when I first came here, after I'd kind of settled in after a few months, I was kind of thinking of things that I wanted to do in my spare time, and I volunteered for most of the time growing up for university and things. So I thought, well, maybe there's some opportunities in Shanghai. Just searched it online, and it came up with loads of websites. And then I have some apps as well on my phone, which has information on about in the city that you live in China. And I just kind of sent through like a online application to start volunteering with them, and just went from there, really.
Okay, so you mentioned an app. What's the name of the app again?
So there's an app called Meetup, which you can look at for kind of group social things. So if you actually like exercise, which I mentioned I do as well before, they have exercise groups on there, which could be paid classes or free meetup groups where they go for a run or something like that. And that has like book clubs and stuff on there. And then there's an app I use as well called City Weekend. And they have articles about volunteering on there. And restaurants, bars, reviews, those different things.
Okay, fantastic. We're going to put both of those ads, sort of both of those names of the apps in the title of this description of the video, so people can find that. So exercise then as well is something you do?
Yeah, exercising. Yeah, I go to the gym and do some, yeah, just fitness kind of jogging and things like this. But I think it's a really good way as again to deal with the homesickness. I think giving that time to yourself to kind of go and do some exercising, and I think after you finish you have like a different outlook and you feel much better, and just looking after yourself and being healthy, and that time for you I think is really helpful as well.
Yes, absolutely. Well, in terms of this program, and if you've been interested in sort of the things we've discussed, if you want to get involved, there's many ways of doing it. You know, you see our website there that will be in the description as well. There's lots of interesting information on there, you know, about the programs. The blog section of our website is great. You know, there's a lot of stories on there, interviews with teachers. YouTube, Nicola has been kind of a great contributor for our YouTube channel, and she started a sort of a new tradition, a Teach English in China tradition, which is her Vlogmas, you know, to celebrate sort of her celebrating Christmas in China. So have a look at that, and we're also, you know, on Facebook and on Instagram. So if you have enjoyed this event and would like some more information about our programs, would like these PowerPoint slides, in fact, you know, we're more than happy to send them over to you. So send us an email. So the email address is on the screen here. So info@teach-english-in-china.co.uk. We're happy to answer any questions that you have and send you these slides. Yes, so in terms of that's it in terms of the slides for this presentation. Nicola, just finally, I mean, you obviously made a lot of your experience in China. You've really you know, done lots with it. What's your advice if people watching this today and sort of thinking, okay, you know, is this for me? You know, should I consider doing this? What's your advice?
I think definitely, I think you should 100% consider it. I think even if you're not interested in teaching necessarily, and even if you're not like me and you didn't even think about going to China before, I think it's definitely something that you should consider. I think the amount of skills and life skills and employability skills and everything that I've acquired, I think is amazing. And I think if it scares you about moving so far abroad and the homesickness, as like we discussed, it's a 1-year program. So 1 year relatively is not that long of a time. And I think it's just an amazing experience that you could do for 1 year or 2 years, however long you want it to last. I think it's just an amazing opportunity that I'm really so beyond words happy that I did.
Fantastic to hear. Well, thank you so much. Really great to talk to you as always. So thank you everyone for watching. That's about it for today. I would say in terms of our program, I'm so grateful for Nicola's time today and her involvement, because the best thing I think about our program is people like her, and the fact that if you're going to do this, you will be in touch with people like Nicola and draw on her expertise in terms of China and living there. You might meet her even at an orientation day. I hope Nicola will be back in China, back in the UK rather, for our July orientation day. And if not, you might meet her in Shanghai or in China later on. So we'll be doing one of these again next week. Our guest then will be Anthony, someone, if you watch our YouTube channel, you might know him very well. He's taught in Beijing as well before he joined our program. So I'll be talking to him about various aspects. I think we'll be talking about the differences between Beijing and Shanghai, where he's currently teaching, and also about teaching in the UK, because he did a PGCE, has teaching experience in the UK as well. So how that sort of compares to teaching in China. So hopefully we'll be joining us for that next week. It's around the same time on Friday morning UK time. So thanks again to Nicola and everyone who watched. So see you soon. Thanks.